So, questions about the material thus far? And there was one that was really specific that I would love to, I don't even remember who it was. Chantal, do you want to do it over there and then go and say,
sachant qu'une maladie est Yuan, le cancer est Yuan, on parle de couche Wei, Ying et Yuan. On dit que Wei, c'est la systémique, ça atteint le sang. Ying s'exprime par les tumeurs.
Okay, so okay, so here is a very simplistic description. Remember that cancer is more than 100 diseases. So there is, what I am giving you is the things that can be said in a very broad way. And then we have to get very differential. But I think what we're getting at here is this whole question of what's the difference, if cancer is a Yuan level illness, a Jing disturbance illness, a DNA doing weird things illness, what does it mean that some cancer entered on the Wei level versus entered on the Ying level versus entered on the Yuan level? And can you tell from the cancer which kind it is? To which my answer is sorta, kinda, maybe. I can give you generalities, and one of the generalities that I find is generally the more systemic cancers, leukemia, things that are like all over the body, have a tendency to be from Wei level or environmental origin, couldn't cope. So it's still a Yuan level illness, but it entered through the Wei level. Ying level illnesses, Ying level entry into cancer is generally tumor related, where there are specific masses, whether they are phlegm or blood, or a mixture of phlegm and blood. That tends to be, because phlegm and blood are Yang. Something got encapsulated, something's like, I'll keep it right here. And things that erupt that are also more systemic, similar to the Wei level ones, but that erupted before the age of 20. Like the early stuff, or maybe 25, whatever, but young people's cancers, not always, but have a tendency to be the hereditary stuff, unless they're growing up in a place that's really got some major environmental insults going on. This is not a rule. Sometimes the Yuan level hereditary ones erupt as brain tumors or things that are taking tumor stuff, but it's clearly right in the middle of the marrow of a gene-rich place. So I cannot make rules on that level. These are generalities. If you find examples that don't fit this, I warned you. Is that clearer? Yeah. At this point, for the most part, in order to get a sense of the etiology, best to look at the history. There was another question that go ahead.
Oui, ma question c'est que je veux savoir dans les cancers héréditaires, selon ce qu'elle disait tantôt, si la personne travaille au niveau spirituel, est consciente de tout ce qu'elle a travaillé au niveau émotif et transgénération, est-ce que ces cas-là, il y a une possibilité de guérir? Merci. Thank you.
I can give no guarantees, obviously. I have certainly seen it be so, and I have seen it be not so. I have seen cases where the person did the spiritual healing work, and they were completely healed on a spirit level. But the body was like a ball and chain, and it was not able to shift, and so the body went one way, and the spirit went the other way. I have seen other situations where the healing on the spirit level was able, with enough time, to be able to shift the body as well. My sense is that it has more to do with the state of the body than the state of the spirit when it transfers. In other words, it is often, if a person has a great deal of physical vitality, then their body is capable of the degree of radical change and the degree of hard work on a physical, cellular, chi and blood level to like you have the 7 dwarfs here, like I hope, you need at least 7 dwarfs to be able to follow up that much radical transformation on the physical level. So I would say that the more depleted the person is physically, and the older they are, the more I will be tempted to help the body as much as I can to be capable of fulfilling the new promise that's coming from the Spirit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Bonjour, j'aimerais savoir, est-ce que tous les cas de cancer comme poumon, intestin ou cancer du sein, peu importe qui demeure, est-ce que c'est la même cause?
I'm not sure that, I don't think I understand somehow.
Ok. Toutes les tumeurs, peu importe qui restent, soit au poumon, au foie, au sein, au côlon, dans tous les cas, est-ce que c'est la même origine ou la même cause?
Okay, it depends on how broadly we are drawing the map. They are, like for instance, when the American Cancer Society says cancer is 100 diseases characterized by irregular cell growth. They all have that in common. We can say that they all have that in common, but oh, is there a lot that they don't have in common? So if we are drawing very large circles, we could say, and this is semantics, we could say, yes, they all come from the same place. They all come from malignancy and mutation after latency. If we keep it that simple, then they're all from the same place. If we're not keeping it that simple, then we're saying, well, some of them came from a weight level insult, and some of them came from a Ying level insult, and some came from a Yuan level insult. We could say, well, the type of toxicity and the type of battle fought to try and figure out how to deal with the toxicity was different, for instance, and it could be even in the same lung cancer. It could be one person has lung cancer where the issue has more to do with more phlegm-type tumors, and there's more a sense of denial. It could be more of a kind of a more blood kind, and it has more to do with a kind of heartbreak and grief. Or it could have it coming from insult from the liver invading the lung, and it's a kind of angry outrage. That's a kind of wood and kind of metal seed that's in there. It could be many different things, even with the same name of lung cancer, and the actual ingredients of the tumor are not exactly the same. The same material is not necessarily used to hold it in latency. Some will use more yin, some will use more blood. And the thing that's held in latency is not exactly the same. All we have that is in common is something was held in latency and it was toxic. So when we actually get to what herbs are we going to choose for the person, what is our actual treatment response, this is going to be much more tailored to what kind of tumor, what went into it, what's been holding it in place, and therefore what will actually resolve the situation. Is that an answer to the question? Did that get at? Yeah, and then that's where the art is.
Parce qu'en clinique, je traitais pas mal de cancers et il y a des cancers différents. Et aussi que j'ai vu que plus qu'on fait des biopsies, plus que le cancer propage vite. C'est comme j'ai un patient de cancer qui était au poumon, qui est gros comme ça, au poumon. Alors il m'a demandé mon opinion, est-ce que je vais opérer ou non. Je dis non, ne touchez pas. Mais si je dis comme ça, je vais toucher votre médecin que je n'aime pas. Alors demandez votre médecin ou un autre ailleurs. Alors il a consulté à la clinique Mayo, je pense, quelque chose, en Floride. Mayo, oui, Mayo. Et il a dit la même chose, il dit, ok, on ferme la porte. Il m'a raconté, il ferme la porte, les deux médecins rencontrent, il dit que on n'est plus médecin, on est amis, on va parler avec toi. Touche pas, ouvre pas, parce que aussitôt que tu vas l'opérer, tu vas souffrir et tu vas mourir. Laisse comme ça et tu peux vivre un peu plus. C'est ça, mais l'acupuncture peut aider à prolonger sa vie, mais ne peut pas sauver sa vie. Tant qu'il donne juste 3 mois pour vivre, alors il peut vivre juste 1 an et demi. Après ça, il va mourir parce que c'est déjà trop gros et la phase terminale. Merci.
Well, everybody's going to eventually die.
Of course, but it can prolong life. So you're going to have surgery, you're going to die anyway. Not necessarily shorter, it's going to necessarily extend your life. So it said don't open, don't do anything, you'll probably live even longer if you're not having any surgery. Paradox.
Yes, that is, I would say, a very sensible position, and it is not one that is well known. And so I shake your hand, brother, for being willing to say so out loud. May you say it long and loud, many places. And in the meanwhile, we get to work, doing what we know how to do. Yeah. I was so intrigued by Bernard Shannon yesterday talking about how in medical Qigong, the first thing you do is you make like a bandage, make a Qi bandage, a wrapping around the tumor. I never thought of that before. I don't yet know how to do that with herbs, nor with acupuncture, but I am going to take the challenge to figure out how, or learn how to do it with my hands, because that's brilliant. If we could just learn to do that, just to learn how to do that. Hey, especially if the tumor is somewhere like your breast, so it's, like, what do you need it for if you're not nursing anymore? It could stay there for a long time, encapsulated, and you're fine. It's not a problem. Whereas there's more and more people who unfortunately have some kind of, yes, it's cancer, but it's not really going anywhere, sitting in one breast, and they go have a double mastectomy. We know that this is an energetic disorder. If you have cancer, you think it's in your breast that you have it? You remove the breast, where's the cancer now? You think it's gone? The cancer's not in the breast, the cancer's in you. Now that you've removed the breast, where's it going to go? Someplace less safe. So there's a lot of reasons for not taking it away from where it already is. It doesn't make the energetic pattern be gone. And the body is doing its best. It's doing its best to put it in the least harmful place that it personally can cope with. So if you take away its best choice, now what? So this is my sense of why it's not so great to just be removing. I mean, I don't want to be dogmatic, don't want to make absolutes. There may well be situations in which it's a good idea. I just do not think that it is a good general practice. It's really something to think about when, to give, to take away the option that the body came up with as its best possible case scenario. Okay.
Avez-vous une approche particulière avec les patients, les gens qui ne sont pas ouverts à une introspection ou qui ne sont pas ouverts spirituellement?
Do you have a certain way of working with patients who are necessarily open spiritually speaking?
Yeah. Many. This also is differential diagnosis, of course, but everybody has a spirit. And what I usually do is work on a biofeedback level and talk about the ways in which our emotions can make our body feel worse or make our body feel better. And I will do things like have them, what I like to do is have people be lying down on the treatment table, and then I sit on my little rolly stool and put my hand under the sheet so that it's under their heart. So that I'm just holding them there. I'm being a nest for their heart to settle into. And I ask them to think about someone who loves them. And I ask them to feel what changes in their body when they allow themselves to feel what it feels like to be loved. This is even better than loving, the feeling of being loved. And I ask them to notice that feeling that happens in their body, the change that happens in their body, what happens if they take it further down in their body, just letting them be with that. And then I will probably do things for contrast and say, okay, what if what you're feeling is cold rage? What happens to that? What happens to your body? And are you able to feel loved or loving when your body is in that state? And I'll work with them with different emotions. I'll start with the most high contrast, and then I will start working with the more tailored to the difficulties that I see them getting themselves into. Like if they seem to be prone to disdain or pessimism, like not good enough, then I'll have them go into that and feel what that feels like in their body. But every place I take them that is illness-making, in order for them to be able to understand what it is, the very next thing I will do is take them back to being loved. And I will take them all the way there. And I will say to them, we're not going to go on to the next lesson until you have completely returned your body to the state of love. I will not do negative emotion after negative emotion. No way, not even if they're very different. Negative, all the way back to the love. Another negative, all the way back to the love. And there's two reasons for this. One, we're going to have difficult emotions all the time. The most important thing for us to learn is not how to stay with the love, stay with the love, stay with the love, stay with the love. You need a lobotomy. What we need practice with, and what is the more valuable skill, is finding our way back to the love from God-forsaken anywhere, with reliability, and to be able to trust in our own bodies. No matter what I get myself into, I will be able to find my way home. So I'm not afraid to feel awful, hellish, totally malignant, and go, okay, bad neighborhood in here. How do I come back to the love? So we specifically, that's the real lesson. It's not even the contrast. That's just to get them to realize that there's a reality to this. But the lesson is, how do I get back to completely giving my body over to the love? The next step after that is going to be working on being able to stay with the love body at the same time as being able to feel the 5 emotions, or the emotions that are the most important for them. Like say they're a fear-based situation. Can you stay with the love even as you allow yourself to have fear? Can you keep loving while fearing? Or a loss and grief-based person. Can you stay with the physiology of love even at the same time as you grieve? And it's a very, again, the most important thing for the client is not getting it right. The most important thing for the client is getting it wrong and recovering. Staying healthy, the way of the Tao is return. That means you have to lose it. All the really cool stuff in life happens on the way back to the Tao. So we're not doing it like challenge, like, okay, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. We're doing it like, okay, you went off, come back. Okay, you went off again, come back. And again, we're building the faith that we can do that. What is that poem? There's a poem by Rumi. About, come, come, you who have broken your vows 1,000 times before. This is not a caravan of despair. Come, come again, come. That's the most important message, is that healing is recovery. Recovery can happen from wherever. Get used to getting ill. Get used to losing it. Get used to going, oh, not again. And then you go back. Yeah. Yes.
À part votre façon de travailler l'aspect spirituel à travers le Qigong et votre propre façon que vous nous avez montré, j'aimerais bien savoir, en acupuncture ou par l'acupuncture, comment vous arrivez à travailler sur l'entité viscérale ou sur les émotions. J'aimerais bien savoir votre propre façon de travailler en acupuncture, ou si vous l'avez, quelques directives ou quelques lignes principales, j'aimerais bien.
Right. Okay. Working with emotions with acupuncture, I can answer this pretty easily. I'm glad you didn't say working with cancer with acupuncture, because I personally would not have the skill to tackle it without herbs. My training says you get those, that's what I would have to say. I need the herbs to really move like a tidal wave through the system. There may be some people who can handle it with acupuncture alone, I'm not one of them. But working with the emotions, absolutely. I'm a Worsley 5 Elements trained practitioner. What I am doing is being in the how do I answer this in the most simple way? Every organ has its correct and proper functioning. The nature of that correct and proper functioning is in the Yuan level, is in the blueprint, it's always there. It is especially clear and simple in the source points of the meridians. It's there to be contacted. So it's like, a prism? Light comes through that's pure white light and then gets refracted into all these different colors. You could say that the meridian, the source point, is like all the colors put together. Absolutely, if we're talking about the kidney, then the source point on kidney is every single aspect of the kidney, all there in white light form. The kidney that this person was born to be, of their kidney. In the gallbladder, it's gallbladder 40. This person's manufacturer's standard blueprint of their gallbladder, before they drank all that crazy stuff and got into all these fist fights, and it's there. But then the whole gallbladder meridian is like the prism with the rainbows coming out. It's the whole continuum of all the aspects of the gallbladder. So one can, I usually do, begin by working with the source point, so that I have the opportunity to come into contact with the energy of the perfection of that meridian. And then I'm going to be working with the various points in terms of where along the meridian is there a lot of crud, blockage. This is me speaking just from my experience. All of us have a very different sensory system. My feeling when I'm with an acupuncture point, let's say we can start with the source point on gallbladder, is I will put my finger there and open my heart to listen. Just listen. Let it know that I'm listening. Just be there. It's kind of like a more mild version of dead qi. When you capture the qi, you just wait until the finger feels like it's in relationship with the point, saying, I will listen to your stories. And often what will happen is, I will feel as though there are stories in there. Sometimes I feel like there's tiny little photographs of little moments. Again, this is me. They look like little circles. I call them the delusional cookies, or the pathological pancakes. There's just like things like leaves floating in a well that come from life experience. The time your girlfriend did this, the time you were totally lost when you were 3 in the mall, or all this different stuff is floating like leaves on the well in the point. And I'll listen to that. Not for the whole time and to tell all the stories. Sometimes it's just too many stories. And then I'll start listening for the truth under the stories. Where's the health underneath all this crud that accumulated? And it's not necessary to be sure that I've heard it. Usually I'm not actually sure that I heard it until I go to the other side and it actually is different. The moment I go to the other side and it's different, which it almost always is, the crud at least is different, then I go, oh, this is not like the other side, I must have felt something. The fact that I'm listening is enough. And there also I listen for and issue an invitation to the truth, the health pattern underneath. And when I needle, it is very specific. As I pay attention to fen depth in a general way. I am obviously not going to go ridiculously deep in places where the skin is, it's thin. But I'm paying more attention for my depth of the needle. I want to make sure I am making contact with the truth. And the state my body is in, it matters. I'm feeling for where's the health in this point. And for me, there's different ways to accomplish the same thing. I will either do one of two different kinds of needling. If what it feels like is that there's a lot of crud in here. Like I can't ring the notes of truth because the bell is filled with crud. I will put the needle in, I'll give it a little bit of a turn, kind of counterclockwise, and then give it some time for the crud to disperse. If there's not a lot of crud, and it's mostly more kind of discouragement, like this bell hasn't been rung in a long time, then I will put the needle in and I'll go, and I'll give it a little twist clockwise, and it's like starting a whirlpool. And that whirlpool, I can direct it up the meridian, I can direct it down the meridian, or I can say both ways. It's like boom. And it sends the cookies flying, and it rings the bell, and I take it back out. Because it's a feeling like once you've rung it, but you turn the light switch on, you don't need to leave a finger on the switch. There can be this feeling of, I've reminded you, hello, now that string is ringing, okay. A player that was on the bench is now back in the game. This is my style of it. It's very important to me to have knowledge of the organs, have knowledge of the element, so that, for instance, if I am needling a kidney point, I am also being a kidney and feeling what the health of the kidney is. And it's very, very different than if I'm needling a lung point. And I'm being in the virtue of the lung, so that I can be responsible to be evoking, calling to that health. Is that the sort of answer you were looking for? Okay. Good.
Do you use sometimes the points like the second branch of a kidney bladder 42 for the lungs, 44 for the heart, and 49 for the spleen, 52 for the kidneys. Merci beaucoup. Yeah. points sometimes?
Yes.
Because they know they're related to a psychological entity related to the organ.
All of them are. However, all of them are psychological. Every single one is psychological. Those outer lines, they're part of a whole network through the bladder of an extra store of energy that is yang and that says yes. The shoe point, or transport point. It says shoe, it's transport, but transport is not the. It's a really cool character that has in it a simple little raft going in the direction of flow. And when you take that little raft going in the direction of the flow of the river and you put it over the heart, it means to heal. It also can mean to answer in the affirmative, to say yes. So I translate those back shoe points. I pronounce shoe as yes. A kind of transport of yes that gets you going. The transport of yes. So instead of saying liver shoe, I say liver yes. And instead of saying kidney shoe, I say kidney yes. With that kind of transport feeling of yes, and we're moving. So there are plenty of times when, honestly, it does more for somebody's spirit to do the inner one and make them feel strong and yes, and give them that cheerlead quality. And usually I will do the inner one first. And then if it feels like it made them strong but not all the way out to the edges, then I do the outer one. And I tend to moxa the outer ones a lot. Notice that. Both of them are good for moxa, but the outer ones especially. I want that refinement. All right. I have gone over time by 7 minutes. I will end here. I will be back in November. I hope to be back other times as well because I have really enjoyed myself. I always meet the most wonderful people when I come to Quebec. You can finish signing here if you want to, and you can give me a hug if you want to because I like hugs.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you.